Welcome back to Exploring the Edges.
Yeah, welcome back, friends.
It is a very cloudy and soft day today. Maybe you are also feeling the energy of this. There was a void moon this morning, and it just feels, at least here in Northern Ontario, that the world is sleeping and we are meant to be awake. And we have some big astrological transits that are happening today and tomorrow. The full moon is coming up.
Yeah.
It will have already happened by the time you guys see this.
Yeah, you'll still be in the energy. It's happening on Wednesday, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Venus has moved into Taurus and Jupiter is moving into Cancer. Venus is faster. She moves signs more frequently, but Jupiter is actually going to stay in Cancer for a whole year. And coming out of an energy like Gemini, where Jupiter is in detriment, we can feel the power of Jupiter returning to a sign where it is exalted. Jupiter being the planet of blessings and abundance and bigness, magnification, manifestations. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how our dream work weaves. We're going to talk a little bit about honoring the past, the red road, the direction of the south. And we're going to close with just a prayer for our earth. And talk about the ways that we do care for her even when we maybe aren't aware of it.
Yeah, and how she cares for us. Yeah, beautiful.
So that's the episode today, friends.
Yeah.
And we can jump right in.
Sounds good.
I think one of the things that is loud for us, and we have just come out of our channeling, so we're very much still in the energy of what we are meant to share this week. And I think that we recognize that oftentimes what we're working through is also what the collective is working through. So even though Jen and I are sharing stories from the lens of where we're at on our journey, it is not separate. And a lot of the themes that we talk about maybe will reach into parts of your own life. So today, I think the message that really came in loud for us is this distinction of the past, the present, and the future, and sort of weaving from the past in ways that serve the time that we spent there without influencing the way that we start to dream about the future.
And even our present moment, you know?
Yeah, sure. So for me, myself personally, something that I'm working through is recognizing, really knowing, not just thinking, but really knowing that in each of these significant life events that I grew through on my way, I'm about to be 42.
Yeah.
I know that each of these significant turning points was divinely aligned. And as I reach back through my path, the path that I walked to arrive to where I am, I can see how, you know, the Groupon that I picked up on a whim. I drove to New Jersey and had like a deep Kundalini activation when I was just a teenager.
Yeah.
I can see how stepping out of my career to hike the Appalachian Trail, to spend all of that time in the woods, I can see how things that in the moment felt like a loss when I had to cancel my guided tour to Machu Picchu and hiking the Inca Trail, but ended up in Wilcatica, which was a beautiful spiritual retreat. So I can see where, you know, now having walked through those experiences, I can see, you know, how the hand of God was guiding, and God being the universal intelligence.
Yeah.
And so there were times in my life I can recognize my own journey where some of the most powerful medicine that I received was just like some tough love. Like, look, these things happen to you. You can stay stuck in your stories. You can stay stuck in your trauma, or you can consciously move forward. You can decide to walk forward.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we do get stuck. We get stuck in what's happened to us, or where we feel we were, some of the deep work of feminine reclamation
Sure.
is taking back those places that we feel were exploited or not really valued or recognized. And I don't know if you want to share anything about sort of looking back on your through the road.
I mean, there are different things that happen in your life, again, that feel like, a disappointment, or I know that, like, sometimes I wish that things had been different, and they weren't for a reason. I had a big trip planned. I had massive anxiety, more than normal, and I ended up canceling my trip. I didn't end up following that trip to see what happened or if anything was going to happen. I was like, I had lived in Korea for 2 years and saved a lot of money, and I wanted to go to Antarctica, and I just ended up canceling the trip altogether. And I don't know if something was going to happen on the Drake Passage or what. And sometimes it's hard, because if anybody has tried to plan a trip to Antarctica, it is not easy, and it costs a massive amount of money. I lost like $1,000, which is a big deal, to cancel it, but it just felt like I can't go. And maybe I'll go there one day. Maybe I was never meant to go there. And it's difficult, because, if you wanted to see everything, to sort of feel like, that was my only chance. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe that wasn't the right timing. Maybe you're not supposed to go there. Maybe you were supposed to do something else, And I think even with little things like quitting jobs and trying to make career changes, and even I'm going to be 42 this year also, and right now trying to like switch what I'm doing career-wise, and to try and even step out of the box further than I already am and have already been feeling. And it just feels like, it feels like sometimes it's harder, and it feels like there's always a choice. And you were speaking into this choice, and I think it's not always like stepping out of trauma. It can just be a little thing, like when you had to cancel your trip, you could have sulked.
Oh yeah.
You could have just sulked. You could have gone home. You could have done anything, but you decided to go, I'm going to go check this out. And then that was the trip that you were supposed to have, And I do think that there's always a choice. And sometimes it's easy to get stuck in the rhetoric that, oh, woe is me, or this is happening to me. We've spoken about that on the podcast as well. And I know people that I've spoken to that they want to find a new job, and they're still even deeper in this system of, oh, but I've already put in X number of years. Oh, but I have benefits. Oh, but I have this. And I don't know if dental being the benefit, or sick days being the benefit outweighs the feeling like you have purpose, feeling like you're doing something to make a difference. Like, there's benefit in that, because it's just, like, what is the actual benefit of your job? I don't know. Just feeling into that, even in the little things, the little career is a big thing for many people, but
I think it's interesting to view it through the lens of past relationships, because I think that's a really ripe territory.
Oh yeah.
For work in the South, in the direction of the South.
Oh yeah, and work that I'm sitting in for sure right now.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times because something that I've been really called to do, I'm being shown mostly in the dream space. I'm being shown where I still have energetic ties to previous partners, not just romantic partners, but I had this significant friendship when I was 30, maybe even younger than 30, that ended sort of abruptly, and I had dreams about that friendship for years after. And I think every time we start to intentionally work in that space, the South Road, the work of the past, we can ask to be shown what still needs to be cleared. And then don't be surprised if the very next morning you wake up and you had this prophetic dream about, dreams are so rich with symbology and meaning. Do not be surprised if somebody showed up late for your birthday party that night, or like you missed a train with somebody, or, there's so much meaning there. And I do think that we are always being guided. And I think sometimes it helps us to feel like our hands are on the wheel. But really what we're doing is just devoting ourselves to receiving the direction that's been laid out in front of us.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of that, working in this territory, your past, is being able to alchemize those deep energies. Like I have partners who rejected me, like I had so much love and so much power and intensity, and just outright rejection, like just never really feeling chosen. And that's a deep wound.
That's a deep wound, whether you have romantic partners or friendships. I can feel into that one for sure. I've had tons of experiences like that.
Yeah. And so it's from this, we can look at this territory, and either we can sit with those feelings and feel into them, feel them in our bodies, move them through with energy work, body work, shamanic journeys. We can move through these deep core wound emotions, or we can continue to see all of our future relationships influenced, written by the same lens of this not being chosen.
Yeah, even your relationship with yourself can be completely influenced by that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not good enough, I'm too much, I'm whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it is sort of where we get to this point in our journey, in our work. And one of the messages that we received today is that sometimes it can feel like a sliding back, almost that you have to take 3 steps back to make 1 step forward.
Yeah.
And I think when we get pulled back into these relationship dynamics of the past, or feelings about ourselves that we thought we outgrew, we can be frustrated, like I thought I was already through this.
Yeah.
And really what we're doing here is pulling in that deep medicine of the path being spiral, coming back to the same places with new awareness, with more tools, with deeper support, with deeper trust, deeper awareness, more embodiment practices. We're always coming back to what we're never faced with something that we're not able to handle.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that's sometimes why it feels like you're coming back to the same place, right? Because you have to gain all of this experience. And this is also, if you look at your past as lessons and tools and like a class that you took, right? You're gaining all of this experience, and then you go through this, you have a new relationship. Well, how do you handle this new relationship? Maybe it's a little bit better, but not all the way. It's not right. And you continue to spiral. Another relationship, you've learned from this next relationship, right? It's like if you're playing a Nintendo game, they don't send you to the final boss at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like if you're learning math, they don't have you doing calculus before you can add. It's the same sort of thing, right? Like where you can take these lessons and this experience, and maybe your spiral's not going up very high if you're not learning from those lessons and not integrating them and not taking the time to do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even the act of witnessing can be such a powerful alchemizer, like even a journal practice.
Yeah.
That's not, it's just between you and yourself and your higher knowing, even journaling about, what your relationship patterns have been, or what your wealth patterns have looked like, or what your relationship with your parents looks like.
Yeah.
There are all these doorways into shining a light or opening a doorway into what patterns and programming and conditioning of our past is still present and writing our future.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where something that I feel so strongly about is really having the courage to like draw the line in the sand. Like as we move through different levels of consciousness, as we move into different variations of our personal power, we're capable of dramatically different things.
Oh, absolutely.
Something that even right now in my life, a big opportunity that's coming in for me, I would not have said yes to that 6 months ago. I just wouldn't have. I wasn't ready. And so oftentimes we don't really see the work that's happening. We don't see that stacking of personal power and alignment and integrity and clearing and grounding and manifesting. We are present to it in the moment, but it is really this work over time, right?
Yes.
Because I didn't have this realization, like a light switch, that came in when I was about to say yes to this big opportunity. It wasn't like, oh, okay, yesterday I couldn't, but today I can. It's such a gradual process, and it's always happening in the current of the work.
Yes.
And so sometimes when you think you're not really making a lot of progress and you're not really seeing the life change in front of you, we're always just like one moment away from something that really changes things in such a significant way.
Yeah.
And I think the problem or the challenge that we face here in that exact statement is that we are envisioning the potential, the outcome, what's possible in the future, where it's all through the framework of what we know has been possible in the past.
Yeah. Oh.
And this is where we need to take time, because the same way that I'm trying to think of a good analogy of like something that couldn't do it before and then has like a tiny bit of something and like now can really do it. Almost like a computer.
Yeah.
Like a computer, not like AI or something like that. Like
Yeah.
not having the ability to do it yesterday, and then it just uploads a code and like now it can do it. Or
even this example that you're talking about now, about how 6 months ago you wouldn't have been ready to say yes to this experience, right? What has happened in that 6 months that has allowed you to say yes? Well, now it's no longer your future. It's happening, and then this is going to build your next future, Yeah. But yeah, absolutely, just this building and building and building. Things that you couldn't do before. If you can't do 1 + 1, then how are you supposed to do 1 + 2? I understand like how to group things now. Now I can do this. Now I can do this. It all builds.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times where we set the upper limit of what we think we deserve or what we think we're capable of has been built in our experiences of the past. And if I continued to hold the type of relationship that I thought I deserved based on the experiences, the previous experiences that I had in my 20s, like I would never be in this relationship here with you now.
Yeah.
And if I continued to believe that the friendships in my 30s, like I would not have soul aligned, deep sisterhood now, this supportive, feminine web that holds me, and so I think sometimes we tell ourselves like, oh no, like we can't actually have this incredibly connected, fulfilling relationship because that hasn't been our experience in the past.
Yep, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, or even if we take a step back, and look at it from the viewpoint of the collective, like, you can't start an online business that's donation based with whatever, because like that has not been done before.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the territory we've spoken about it many times on the podcast, like creating that freedom to do things a bit differently. But in that, not tempering your expectations about what's possible, about the outcome based on what's happened in the past.
Either with you or with what you've read or heard.
Yeah. Or even just what's been possible in society.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we are at we're at a significant turning point. And, anybody who is sensitive to the energetics of our society knows that we're really beyond that crossroads, the fork in the road. It's sort of already happened. And I think in a lot of the indigenous traditions, there was this prophecy that we're going to come to this fork in the road. And my sense is that we've already decided. Some of us have already started walking down this other road. And I think in that context, it's not a road that we've traveled before.
No.
And we can use that same framework of thinking, problem solving, believing for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because in this moment, I have not been this person before.
Sure.
And I feel that way about the person I was yesterday.
Yep.
The person I was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe you are not the same person either. And so what you think you're capable of today, the person that you are tomorrow, snaps the fingers, it's done.
Yeah.
And so we cannot let ourselves continue to be written by the stories of our past.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to jump onto this same idea, is to just keep trying. And I believe we spoke about it in another podcast, how sometimes it's difficult without external validation. And this external validation being like, oh, I don't see, like I don't see the result of this work. But there's always results of the work. And I keep thinking of like when you're speaking about this not being the same and this energy of like trying and trying and trying and things that you couldn't do before, and being a different person this morning than you are now. I just picture this little kid trying to learn how to walk, and they just keep trying and trying and trying, and they couldn't walk this morning, and now they're running around the whole house, you know? And it kind of feels like that, to just keep at it and realize that like every action that you take and everything that you're doing, whether you're meditating, whether you're going to your job, whether you're doing whatever, just living your life, that there's an energetic imprint, an energetic output that you're putting out into the world, that you're going to feel, that the people around you will feel, that the plants in your house will feel, that the animals around you, the animals outside, we see people feeding birds out of their hand, and it seems like so exciting and amazing, but the birds can feel your energy, right? So I think it's just important to realize that if you're feeling like this dedication to the work, that no matter what you're doing, in any way that you move through the world, you're still doing it, and there is an impact even if you don't see it, and that it's very important, and it's bigger than you think.
Yeah, and another thing that we received this morning is that there is a living, breathing relationship with the consciousness of the earth itself, such that the same way I hold consciousness, you hold consciousness, this plant is also conscious, that Gaia, as the web of all living things, is its own consciousness. And sometimes it feels like kind of an abstract theory to think about, this consciousness of Gaia. And I think when I'm closest to experiencing that truth is often in times of ecstasy and orgasmic states. I can feel into this this connection, this environment of consciousness that is Gaia. But I think we can look at our relationship with Gaia the same way we could look at our relationship with each other.
Sure.
And I think what happens is you start to become aware of, like you were saying earlier, sort of that every step you take on the earth feels that step.
Yeah, the earth can recognize you. There was a study that we saw, I don't know if it was on Instagram or what, that the plants in your house know when you're, I think, within 2 kilometers of being home. So I don't know how many miles that is, like 1.5 miles or a mile from home. And I do believe that, the path that you walk on, or when you're walking down the streets, all the plants around you can feel you, and that we come from the earth. And that so every time we step on the earth, whether it's on your shoes or your bare feet, your vibration is recognized, that the earth can recognize you and feel you. And that we really have this relationship with the earth that we need to cultivate and that we need to take care of. It's the same with having a relationship with yourself. It's something that is so easily neglected because you're not wondering why you didn't text yourself back. Or you're not making a special meal. Like, make a special meal for yourself and react to it as if somebody else gave it to you, You have to cultivate this relationship with yourself. It's the same with the earth. And, whether it's picking up a piece of trash, or whether it's moving an animal to the side, a little worm, lots of times I walk after the rain, there's worms on the road, and I try and take them off the road so they don't get run over by a car. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like, there's so much more I could be doing, but the earth has this relationship with you, and there's a reason why she's called Mama Earth. She's the mother, right? And so she loves you no matter what. And I think she gives us all of these beautiful gifts, and sometimes we forget to recognize that. I think sometimes we just forget to recognize that, whether it's a beautiful sunset, whether it's a cool breeze on a hot day, whether, it's a plant that you've never seen before that has just opened, And there are little things that we can do to kind of cultivate our relationship with it, whether it's feeling into the trees or sitting underneath a tree. Give one a hug, see how you feel. You know, you can tease somebody for being a tree hugger, but go hug a tree, see how it feels. Pick up the trash. Think about it before you spit your gum on the ground. There's just so many things. It feels wildly important to know that anywhere that you go in this world, you are held and recognized, even if you feel alone.
Yeah, such powerful words. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, just giving a minute to let all of that settle. Yeah, being in this relaxed, open state and feeling into this truth that we are recognized and loved by the earth itself. And I think it is challenging because for many of us, women especially, we look at our past and it has not been one of devotion to the earth. And so I think it feels hard to change directions, but it is not, right? It's in so many small ways, in simple ways of being devotionally, like even being aware of the moon cycle, or being aware of your own menstrual cycle, right? Like as women, and maybe I'm losing the men that might be listening, but as women, our past has not been in deep connection to the mother.
Yeah.
And we talk about it a lot in the feminine reclamation space, but even in terms of, spirituality or spiritual awakening, there's this whole different dimensional awareness that comes once you start to cultivate these different channels of flow and being. And I think this is where we can sort of tie it into the past, because if in the past you have not felt deeply supported by the mother, you might be listening to us talk about this and saying well, where was she when I was going through a divorce? Or where was she when I lost someone I loved in an accident? Or where was she when this diagnosis came in, right? And it's just powerful. It's powerful soul territory to step into those emotions. If you're feeling any of these things, well, where was she when? Well, what about when? What about when? What about this? Feeling into these places, because they're important windows into where our children, our inner children, have not felt supported by the mother. And this is separate from your own. I have mom issues and dad issues. And it's separate from all of that, right? It's really about being a being of Gaia. And what does that relationship look like? And are we able to view our past in a way that can support us, help us pull that? We talk about this all the time, pulling the wisdom from the past and carry it into the magic and the weaving of the future. But I like the way that you said it, feeling like it was a class that we took in our soul curriculum, you know,
maybe one test really kicked your butt and you had to do it again, and then again, and then you were like, okay.
Or maybe you did have the awareness the second time you took the test, you remember some of the questions from the first.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so just feeling into this, whether our future is a victim to what we believe is possible from the lives that we've lived already.
Whether our present moment is, whether we are. Are you a victim to everything that has ever happened to you? Or are you a scholar? How much do you know? How much do you know now? How much have you learned?
Yeah, and if you haven't learned, how much are you willing to learn?
Yeah.
Because this opportunity exists in every moment. It is just a conscious turning to being a scholar of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so much. And, we can say it like this, but it's difficult. There's some lessons that are really hard to swallow.
Yeah, or are not lessons at all.
Yeah,
but
sometimes
are,
stuff,
yeah,
sometimes life just happens.
Yeah, because I do think that, like sometimes this, like, oh, it happened for a reason,
Yeah.
can be challenging to digest.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes, I feel like things happen because you're meant to make a choice afterwards, not because you're meant to learn A, B, and C from the thing that happened. You're supposed to go, okay, you're going to kick me, well, I'm going to get back up again.
Yeah, or that it's part of the experience that your soul signed up for this time.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, we can view it comically, like, why did my soul sign up for this lifetime? Yeah. We can, like, tantrum about, pick our feet.
Yeah.
And there's some really talented creators in the spirituality side of Instagram that are making really funny reels about it. But, like, the truth of it is that if we believe that we came into this body, this time, for a specific set of experiences and karmic lessons, clearing karmic contracts, if we believe that we have a divine purpose, a divine calling, if we've come to bless Gaia and the people around us, we carry out that mission in integrity. It means being open to experience also suffering, also loss, also grief, also rage. And so if we can view ourselves as the infinite, just experiencing the infinite through itself, then we can open ourselves up to get deeper clarity from things that have been really hard to live through.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it helps to remind yourself, that you are a soul having a human experience, and not a human with a soul.
Yeah.
And then not to separate yourself from what's happening, but to kind of be able to reframe it, right? You can say, okay, I'm experiencing heartbreak right now. Now, this body can learn what heartbreak is.
Yeah. Or I'm experiencing clinging.
Yeah.
Or I'm experiencing ecstasy.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome,
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it does help just to reframe it. And it's okay if you forget that sometimes. I think it's normal.
Yeah. And just pulling this whole conversation back into the medicine of the South. And feeling that directionally, even, the next time that you are wanting to dive into this territory, paying homage to the South, facing the South direction, or using the colors that are associated with this direction, or doing some research around how to make offerings to the South part of the medicine wheel. There's all of these deeper wisdoms, channels, texts, ascended beings, archetypes, gods, goddesses. There's all of this magic that's just waiting to help us once we open ourselves up to walking on this path.
Yeah, and we're full of it too. Sometimes you'll just know, I feel like I need to go do this. Okay, I found this bark. I feel like I need to place it beneath this tree. There's just, sometimes you'll just know. It's okay to trust yourself.
Yeah, so hoping that this conversation serves.
Yeah,
big things are happening in the collective energy. This big change of Jupiter into Cancer, really bringing us back inside ourselves, our emotional bodies. Gemini, air sign, all upstairs. Cancer being a water sign, all emotional. It's a profound shift. And now we can start to look at the ways that we can bring this big feeling of support and benevolence and abundance and magnification and manifesting into our emotional bodies. And it just feels like a profound shift.
Yeah.
So we'll have that for the next year. We can dig into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just sending you so much love.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at on your path, whatever you're working on, just know that it is such a divine opportunity, and we're here all the time supporting you with our energy and our thoughts and our love And we're witnessing in every time that you share with us how this podcast has reached you. We're witnessing you in such sacred joy and devotion that we've been able to speak to you at a soul level.
Yeah, thanks, all. Thanks for being here. Leave a comment. Let us know how you're doing. If you don't want to leave a comment, we do have an email address below also.
Okay, we'll see you next week. We're not going to be recording live next week.
No, yeah, we are at a Ontario Women's Drum Camp next week.
Yeah,
facilitating workshops and healings. And
so we've already recorded that episode.
yeah,
Still super sweet, and we'll serve the moment. But
yeah,
we'll be back live with you in 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys then on the other side of this drum camp experience, on the other side of my solar return.
Yes.
On the other side of this full moon in Sagittarius.
Oh, yeah. Should be interesting. I'm very excited.
Okay, we'll talk to everybody soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.